Hello everybody, I am John. This is the Midnight Paint and Body channel. Hey, in this video I'm just going to take you guys along on some really basic repair and paint work. So this week's patient is this Chrysler Citadel. So I guess just a fancy Durango, but this is a really nice SUV, nice solid rig. But what we're going to be doing is just some basic stuff. Now the customer wants the hood repainted, just because it's got a lot of chips and stuff in it. A few small little dents here and there, nothing major. And then the biggest thing, now both of these front doors, I'm trying to give you guys some good light, have this nasty rust issue around the front of the handle. So both sides, only the front doors. The rears seem fine. So we're going to be cleaning up and painting the hood and both front doors. So with that, I'll kind of be showing you guys how and why we blend colors. So we'll be painting the hood, we'll be blending into the front fenders, painting the repairs, and then because we're so close to the rear doors, we'll be blending the rear doors. So stay tuned, follow along till the end, and I'll kind of show you, like I said, kind of how we blend and why we blend, and I'll kind of explain it and go through it and show you as we go along. So this is the part I always find interesting, guys, just seeing, when we have a rust issue like that, why is it happening? So first off, taking the door handles off of these things, it is a giant pain in the butt. Pretty typical with this modern stuff that have this cassette style inner door panel. Now, I didn't get into the tear down on this. I haven't done enough of these to kind of take you through step by step. I kind of fumble through each one. I don't work on as much modern stuff as I used to. But typically with this style, you see this inner, I think they call it a cassette. It's got the, it's got the window regulator, the door latch, everything is integrated in it. So it's not just as easy as taking the interior trim panel off and getting to the door handle. To get to the door handle, you need to take the interior trim off, and then you need to take the glass out, because the glass, see, the side glass attaches to this, so obviously it goes up and down, so you need to remove the glass, and then you need to remove this panel, and these are kind of difficult. So, like I said, I won't get into that, but it is all apart. Other side will go quicker now that I know where everything is. Sometimes it just takes a minute to figure out where all the fasteners are. So, we'll start with the outside, which we saw out here. Let's just kind of poke at this a bit. Now that we're in there, so you can see we've got really good rust there. It goes all the way around where the handle goes here, so it's right back into here. But then we'll have to make sure we clean up in here. I don't really see any, well, it might be bubbling just a hair there. But then let's go around, move some junk out of my way, and then you see on the inside, you can see how rusty the inside of the door is. So this is all going to have to be cleaned up as well. But you can see it's got quite a bit around the back part of the handle, the worst at the front. Now what I did notice taking these apart, and what I maybe is what kind of starts this, is these are the bolts that go right through that inner handle piece to the outer handle and sandwich everything together. Now these bolts are super rusty. That makes me think maybe that's what started this. So when these go back in, I will clean these up really good and probably coat them in anti-seize or something to try and stop this. But yeah, this is all going to have to be cleaned up really well. So See, we're getting down a little bit there to that sound deadening. So, anyway, that's where we're at here. I'm gonna go rip the other side apart, and then we'll just start cleaning up some rust. Here, guys, want to show you what I'm doing. And for the customer too, I like them to be able to see what's going on with these. So, I know it looks a little messy in there, but I cleaned up with a little grinder all of the rust inside and mixed up a little epoxy before lunch and just brushed it on there. And then I will brush that again, probably just with like some, I don't know, Krylon or something, some good rust paint just to seal it up as best I can. So I ended up having to actually take this outside and use my big sandblaster. I thought I'd be able to kind of do it in here in the shop with my little guy, which actually works really well. But man, it was just so thick. So that's all cleaned up. I just, I usually mention this, but I just hit that. I don't know where I put it. Anyway, like just a spray can of aerosol primer like that, just to stop those deep pits from flash rusting while I work on it. It's amazing with the moisture in the air how quick it can come back. But this side was actually a lot worse than the driver's side. So she's caved in pretty good there. That was some really, really thick rust. So same thing in here. So I've got everything cleaned up. So I'm going to move on to feathering this all back on the outside. Kind of a nasty little chip I noticed there, so I'll clean that up for him too. But so yeah, I'm going to go on to them and get the hood sanded, and then I'll get it in for some primer. I'm not going to take you guys through all the steps of this again. I was kind of making this video to focus more on the paint work, like I said, to kind of show you how and why we blend these colors. So I'll see you guys back in a bit. Well, good morning everyone. It is the next day again. Shop is just warming up bright and early. So I got some primer on our job yesterday. So we've got our repair areas primed, a couple little spots. But yeah, the hood was just rock chips. It actually wasn't that bad. So I just gave it a complete kind of coat and a half of primer sort of thing. And we've got our other door, and there was some other chips on the back door, so I just cleaned those up. So I am just going to back this thing out, and I'm going to get all the primer areas prepped. I'm not going to record a bunch of that, because that's not really my intent of this video. But once I've got the primer prepped and this thing kind of stripped down, we'll move on to prepping for the blends, and I'll take you guys along on that, and I'll kind of show you what we do and why we do it to, you know, blend into these adjoining panels. Okay guys, so this is the educational part of our program. So why do we blend these colors? So I'm going to show you. So now obviously, you know, we're painting the hood. We're not doing anything on the fender because there's no damage there. You know, we're moving back to the door. This is where we had the damage, so we're painting the door. But because of these heavy pearl colors, now a dark color like this, you might be okay. I already looked it up. This coat is PB7. Can't remember what it's called. Blackberry, they call it. So I already looked it up. There's no variants on this color. There's only one mix for it. So sometimes these colors will have 3, 4, or 5 different variants on the color. So that's a bunch of different shades. So you got to think when these cars are built, you know, when this was built at Chrysler in 2011 or whatever, you know, they had 36 million gallons of this paint. You know, you got a vat this big, they start painting cars, paint goes down. I'm sure it stirs all the time and everything, but it's not always going to be 100% the same. These colors do change. Now, when these get to a body shop, we're painting in different environments, possibly a different paint brand, different air pressures, different temperatures, different, you know, whatever, barometric pressure, I don't know, like this, everything can change this stuff. So the easiest way, now the most common way to achieve a color match is to blend your panels. Now I could do a spray out card of this color and make sure it's perfect, and if it's not, I could spend an hour tinting the color. I could do another spray out card and check it. You can do that all day. Or you just blend your panels. That's pretty standard practice in auto body. So we're going to blend this panel. So I'm going to sand this fender, and then when I paint the hood, my paint is just going to go over onto the fender. Now I'm going to keep my paint away from these adjoining panels because we want to maintain that factory color match. Now, if all I was painting was this bumper cover, something like that, you're probably going to be fine. But even look at this, you can, if you really focus on it, you can see a slight shade difference. So we're going to blend into this fender, and then getting back to this door. Now, I cleaned up a couple of chips here. They weren't part of the estimate, whatever, but they were there, so I fixed them. But just even say we weren't doing this door at all, we wouldn't just paint this door, because chances are our color is just not going to match up against that factory color. So what we do is blend the panel. Now it's, for the time it takes, for the little extra material, it's just worth it to not have to worry about a bad color match. So I'm going to be, like I said, blending off the hood. Our color will go onto the fender. And then when I paint this door, I put my paint on. We stay within this panel. So I don't want my paint going all the way back to here because we want to maintain this factory color match. Chances are sometimes you could panel paint this and it'd be fine. But for me, it's worth it just to blend the panel and know for sure. Now, I'm not saying you can take a color that doesn't match and blend it and make it okay. It still has to be the right color. But if there is just a, if you've got a slight difference, you see how this has this heavy blue pearl in it. Say you've got just a slight difference in that amount of pearl in it, then the blending, you're not going to see that. So, what do we do to prepare for blending? So I've already washed all these panels down with some wax and grease remover. So for me, being this is, just setting the camera, a darker color, I'm just using some 800 grit sandpaper by hand. I'm going to sand this whole fender. And when I'm done, that's ready to blend. If this was a lighter color, if this was silver, say, I'd probably use 1000 or 1200 grit for the blends. But for this, 800 is just fine. That's pretty much my go-to. I've seen guys complain about, the hand sanding, but oh, you're going to dig trenches. 800 grit, you're not digging trenches. This is just taking the very top layer off. If you're sanding primer and using, say you're sanding 220 and you're putting finger marks in it, well, those are going to show up. These won't, because this is just scuffing that top layer. So, as always, way into your edges, super important, because if it's ever going to peel, it's going to peel from those little edges where you didn't get way in there with your sandpaper. So take that little bit of extra time. So, I'm going to continue on with that. I'm going to basically 800 the whole side of this car, move on to the other side, kind of same idea, and then we'll shortly be getting it into the booth to mask up. So I always like to finish my blend panel after sanding it just with a gray Scotch-Brite. It just kind of blends everything in nice, and then you can really get into those edges with it. Just jam it right in there and make sure you're getting sanded way down deep and those kind of things. So now this kind of brings me back to another thing, something I hear a lot. Guys will get their car back from a body shop. Now, say this was a collision repair where it had front end damage, and say this was all the repairs from collision, and they're doing the same thing, just like I'm doing. They're stopping their paint here, they're going to blend this panel to maintain their color match. Now just say there's a couple of big rock chips back here. They're not going to clean those up any more than I would. Guys will always say, oh, I can't believe they did that and just left those chips. Well, again, that's the blending process. It's different if you're doing a complete paint job, you're painting everything, but I mean, if there was, I fixed these chips in the front edge of this door because they're right there, that's where I'm painting. If there was chips back here, I wouldn't fix them because then my paint's coming all the way back here, and now guess what? Now I'm blending this panel. So you can see where you do have to draw that line. Now, myself, not everyone will do this, but say there was a couple of big ugly chips back here. Before I put my clear coat on, I would put a little paint on a paintbrush and dab in the chip, so at least you're clearing over kind of the same color, not, you know, a rusty chip or a gray primer or whatever it is. So there are little things you can do to make that process a little better. So anyway, I hope that explains somewhat what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. So I'm going to carry on, get this all sanded, bring you guys back in a bit. So this is super fun. The power went out about half an hour ago. I've been in here masking this car to battery operated lights. So hoping it would just come back on, but it's been a while. It's actually, shop's starting to get cold because the heat and everything's off, but oh boy, I just can't win, I tell you. Well, what do? I'm gonna keep on masking. And then probably when the lights come back on, I'll have to redo half of it when I see up where the edges are. But anyway, just thought I'd do a little check-in there. I thought you guys might get a kick out of what it's like being self-employed. Power goes out, you don't go home. Turn the friggin' battery lights on and keep working. Story of my life. Well, I did manage to get the car mostly masked up by candlelight, but I guess I was hoping the power would come back on, but she's still dark. So I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. If it comes on early enough tonight, I'd like to still get out here and get this car painted, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, and I don't think it's weather related. It's pretty darn nice out there. Actually even melting a little bit. No, who knows? Car could have hit a power pole, could have been anything. Anyway, guys, see you back here soon. Well, good morning. It's the next day. We have lights. So, turns out I was right. Actually, a car took out a power pole on the highway, like just across the field from where I live. It's pretty much the highway, and I guess it happened right there. But I did manage to get most of this masked up last night, finished it up this morning, so I figured I'd bring you guys in for a look, so kind of gives you another idea of our blending process. So what we're gonna start out doing, now we will be putting base coat on until we have full coverage on our repair areas, on our primer areas. And of course, each coat that goes on there is going to blend onto the adjoining panels. And then once we have coverage over everything, then we kind of move on and just sort of blend out our base coat just to even everything out. So it is pretty straightforward. Now, if this was a really low hiding color, like say a yellow or a silver, something that doesn't cover well, sometimes what I like to do is I'll mask off this panel. I'll just throw a paper over this fender, say, and do my first couple of coats over my repairs until I've pretty much got the coverage. Then I'll take that paper off and then let it going on to the other panels. But I think I'll throw on the headband camera and I'll bring you guys in and I'll kind of give you an idea what happens at this stage. All right, hopefully I've got the camera set where you guys can see and where you can hear. So now something I get a lot of questions about, guys, is air pressure. That's a really tough one to answer. Now, because I obviously paint in a homemade paint booth that doesn't have great airflow, you know, it's really different than what you would be doing in a, say you're painting in a proper downdraft paint booth with proper heat and proper airflow. So you just kind of have to adapt to these kind of situations. Now, I spent most of my career painting in a good paint booth, but you know, since I've just worked from home now, this is, you know, this is where I paint. So you just adapt to your environment. So I've already tacked off the whole car with a tack rag to get rid of any last little bits of dust or dirt. And incidentally, I let most of the air out of the front tires on this just so I can reach across the hood better rather than standing on something. This vehicle's a little bit tall, it's not too bad. So now you can see this is what I'm talking about with blending out your color. As we move along, these blends will go out a little farther and we'll kind of feather it off at the end, but we don't want color all the way to the back of the panel. Alright, so that'll set for 10 minutes. We'll tack it again and then we'll do another coat. So let's go in and have a look at our first coat. So as you can see, we don't have full coverage yet, so obviously just one coat. I like to tack in between blend coats. You can see that we're getting just that little bit of the edge of the blend, kind of the dusty part of the edge of the paint, if that makes sense. So you can see it's quite a bit that kind of makes it out to the ends. Now when you don't have really good airflow, you know, my booth doesn't clear out as fast as, say, a good downdraft booth would, so you get more of that kind of the stuff that's kind of landing on the car after you're done spraying. So that's where, for me, tacking between is definitely a good idea. So I'm gonna grab the gun and give her another coat. Well, let's go put on our last coat of base. So you can see now we've got, you know, with 2 coats, we've got decent coverage. I think it will require a 3rd over the primer, but at this point, the 3rd will be our last coat. And this is where we're just going to blend out a little farther. Now keep in mind, the only main points here, we just want to keep our color away from the quarter panel, so we maintain that factory color match. And then a little bit at the front bumper. So, I mean, other than that, you could put paint over everything if you wanted to. So I'm increasing my distance from the panel just a little bit for this final coat. So that's it. We'll let that sit for 10 minutes and we're ready for clear coat. Well, it's all set up, tacked off, and ready for our first coat clear. Well, we don't want to clear over that. I probably got a little chunk of something off the hose. Painter trick. And we're out. Anyway, I'll put a little more clear in the gun, just finish that bottom of that panel. I'll give her 10 minutes, so I'll give it another coat, and then I'll bring you guys in for a look in a bit. Alright, so I already put my second coat of clear on in there, guys. It's been 10 minutes or so, but let's go in and have a look. I'm going to throw my respirator on. So I might be a little muffled, but probably still pretty thick in there. So I'll take you in for a quick peek. So as you can see, kind of looking at our blend areas, you know, you don't see where the paint was blended, and that's the idea. So, you know, we had a primer spot here, and I blended my paint out to around there. You know, you can actually see where it's just touching tape on the door handle, or you can kind of see how, you know, how much paint I've put on there. But so that kind of shows you how blending works, why we do it. So I'm going to let this sit overnight. Tomorrow we'll get her unmasked. Well, I'll probably unmask it in a couple hours, but tomorrow we'll get it all put back together, and we'll have another look. All right, everybody. Well, here she is, all finished up, put together, washed up for the customer. So hopefully that gives you a little understanding of the blending process of paint, how and why we do it. So now, like I always say in these videos, I know obviously not everybody has the tools and the facility and the ability to do this kind of work. But I figure if nothing else, yeah, I mean, it kind of shows you what's involved. You know, if you know, maybe you're getting your car repaired and you see the blend on their estimate, or you hear them talking about blending the paint. Well, now you kind of know what they're talking about if you're, you know, if you're not up on this kind of stuff. So hopefully it helps you out in that way or something. And keep in mind too, guys, that, I mean, obviously I work in a dirty old truck shop. I paint in a homemade paint booth. You know, every painter has different techniques. You know, every paint company has different recommendations. Now, you know, some paint companies will use a blending agent that you put down before you do your blend, or, you know, but it's pretty basic around here, so that just kind of shows you what's involved And it shows you a nice, invisible blend. So like I was saying, so now we're maintaining this factory color match because I didn't put my paint all the way back to this panel. So, my repair was here, so the paint sort of ended there. So that is why we do it. So, as always, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was helpful. If you liked it, let me know in the comments. If you didn't, let me know in the comments. If you want to push subscribe, you can do that. If you don't want to, I don't care. But, as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you on the next one, which is going to be rocker panels on a Dodge truck, if you think you might be interested in that. All right, see you next time.